Let me ask you something. Have you ever lived your life inside someone else's blueprint? A blueprint you never asked for? A blueprint that didn't match the shape of who you're becoming? If that hit you in your chest, then you're in the right place. Every story starts somewhere, and this story starts with a redesign. Welcome to Blk By Design, where our stories breathe out loud. Today we're talking about what it means to build your own story on purpose. So let me start with a confession. Blk By Design wasn't the first idea, not even close. When I first stepped into podcasting, I started with Will on the mic. You guys remember? Cute, clean, clear. But it didn't feel like home. It was like wearing an outfit that technically fits, but doesn't feel like you. So then I shifted into We Got Time Today. Had great traction. It was getting good. And listen, at first, it felt like the moment. It had attitude, energy, was a little spicy, but the inspiration started fading fast. And then I realized something. The message was too broad, too loose, too unfocused. It was talking around the truth, not from it. Because deep down, the more I thought about who I am, what I care about, and what I want this space to represent, the more I realized the answer has been sitting in front of me this whole time. It was always Blk By Design. That's who I am. That's who my people are. That's what my creativity feels like. Intentional, crafted, built with purpose. Nothing about us is random. Not our joy, not our culture, not our voice, not our presence. We are designed, not defined. And once I understood that for myself, the whole show shifted. Because when you start thinking about yourself as a design, you start seeing everything else through a different lens. So let's deep dive into our first segment of the season. BLACKPRINT of the week. A BLACKPRINT is the architecture of Black identity. It is the design behind who we've been, who we are, and who we're becoming. Blackness has always been intentional. And because some moves aren't just political, they're architectural. This week's BLACKPRINT isn't just about a campaign. It's about a blueprint being redrawn in real time. Yes, Jasmine Crockett stepping into the race for U.S. Senator isn't simply a headline. It's a seismic shift. It's the moment a Black woman from the South, with a voice sharper than a cease and desist and a backbone carved out of activism, decides that the ceiling everyone else tiptoed under? Yeah, she's breaking it on purpose. Jasmine Crockett isn't just running for Senate. She's entering a political arena built without us in mind and rewriting its operating systems. So why does this moment matter? One, she represents a legacy of Black Southern political power. The South is the birthplace of civil rights organizing, from Fannie Lou Hamer to John Lewis. Yet today, Black political power is constantly suppressed, redrawn, and undermined. Crockett's run symbolizes a return to the radical lineage of Southern Black leadership that refuses to be erased. Number two, she embodies that modern architect of the unapologetic Black woman in politics. She's not softening her tone, shrinking her intellect, or rounding her edges to fit inside respectability politics. She's showing up, loud, brilliant, unfiltered, and deeply informed, a necessary counter-narrative to the stereotype that Black women should be quiet and compliant. 3, she challenges the idea that certain seats aren't meant for us. Senate seats, historically white, male, wealthy, insulated, have rarely been accessible to Black candidates, especially Black women. Crockett stepping forward reminds us that representation isn't just optics. It shifts policy possibilities. It reframes what leadership looks like. It forces this country to confront who has the right to govern. 4, her candidacy expresses the country's obsession with policing Black tone. Crockett has repeatedly been criticized for her sharp rhetoric, yet those moments only amplified her voice, her base, and her legitimacy. The backlash she receives is exactly why her run is culturally necessary. It shows that when Black truth is spoken from a podium instead of a protest line, it still shakes the table. So when we call Jasmine Crockett our BLACKPRINT of the week, we're not just highlighting her candidacy, we're honoring what it means. We're honoring the BLACKPRINT she comes from, the BLACKPRINT she's rewriting, and the BLACKPRINT she's leaving behind for every Black creator, leader, voter, and voice who's ever been told their power had limits. Jasmine Crockett is reminding us we're not accidental, we're not optional, we're not temporary. We're designed, layered, intentional, and necessary. That's why this moment matters. This run for Senate, this is what it looks like when Blackness becomes architecture. When identity becomes strategy, when a Black woman becomes the blueprint. That has been Jasmine Crockett, and that has been the Black Print of the week. Think about it. Black joy, a design of resistance. Black fashion, a design of innovation. Black slang, a design of community. Black survival, a design of brilliance. From our neighborhoods, to our music, to our ways of loving, we've been building, shaping, and crafting culture since forever. So my question to you is this: whose Black print have you been living inside of? And when did you realize you could redraw it? Now, speaking of redesigning, there was a moment in my own life when I had to tear down the old map and start fresh. I grew up inside a Black print crafted by expectation. What it means to be a Black man, what queerness should look like, what success should sound like. Everybody had notes, but no one asked what I wanted to build. And one day it hit me. I was living from a draft I didn't write. And when I started asking myself bigger questions, what if softness was a part of my design? What if queerness was the foundation and not the flaw? What if creativity wasn't a hobby, but the architecture of my life? And that's when this show became more than just a podcast. It became a Black print for whom I am becoming, designed on purpose. And when you start realizing, and once you start redesigning your life, you realize you're not the first person to do this work. There's an entire lineage of people who rebuilt themselves from the ground up. That brings me to our next segment, pattern breakers. Today's pattern breaker is someone who shaped the very foundation of who I am as a Black queer creator. It is none other than James Baldwin. Baldwin wasn't just a writer. He wasn't just a thinker. He wasn't just a witness. He was proof. Proof that you can be Black and queer and brilliant and vulnerable and powerful all at once. Proof that your truth is not something to hide, but something to craft with intention. Baldwin gave language to feelings I didn't know how to name growing up. He taught me that queerness isn't a side note, it's a design element. A necessary one, I might add. And as someone creating publicly, creating loudly, I pull from Baldwin's courage every time I sit behind this mic. There's a Baldwin quote I want to talk about because I think it makes sense to what we're talking about today. And the quote is, "You have to decide who you are and force the world to deal with you, not its idea of you." So let's break this down. Decide who you are. That's the design. That's the choice. That's the intention. And then force the world to deal with you. That's the architecture of courage. Not to fit in, not to shrink, not to explain, not to apologize, but design yourself and let the world adjust. Now, Baldwin's quote is a call to be unapologetically ourselves in a world that often seeks to define us. That quote is the heartbeat of Blk By Design because we are building our own stories. So Baldwin leaves us with a question. One I want you to sit with as we close out today's chapter. What part of your life needs a redesign? What blueprint no longer fits? And what would your story look like if you crafted it on purpose? So, have an axe. Close your eyes, breathe, and sit with that. Now, if today's episode made you feel something, share it with someone who's in their redesign season too. And I want to hear your voice in the archive. Send me a DM for my Voices in the Stack segment. I want to hear your story. Now, another story told, another pattern broken, another piece of our Black print revealed. Until next time, this has been Blk By Design. Bye.